A few years back, after my husband and I split, I did a little online dating by the way of OkCupid. I was brand new to the whole online dating thing and honestly quite naive to the culture. Needless to say, I made some rookie mistakes. This guy ends up sending me a relatively innocuous message about how he likes my profile, but I'm probably too much of an extrovert for him, but he'd be remiss if he didn't at least say hello. So I take a look at his profile and total neckbeard. Not really my type. I send him a polite message back that basically says that I appreciated his kind words and also, yeah, not really interested. So he sends me back what I thought at the time was a very sweet message about how obviously we weren't romantically compatible, but how cool he thought some of the things I said on my profile were. He had a few follow-up comments about things he liked and questions about why I liked this thing or that thing. Somehow I ended up talking to this guy for hours via text. All of it perfectly polite conversation. He didn't really flirt with me at all. He even asked me if I had any luck on OkCupid, which led me to tell him all about a guy that I'd been seeing casually. He offered some really good advice and was honestly a perfect gentleman. So we start chatting online on a somewhat regular basis. He continued to be polite and maybe a little flirty, but not overtly so. I didn't have very many male friends at the time, and it was nice to get a guy's perspective on some of the things going on in my life. I genuinely thought I'd made a friend. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I had recently moved into a new apartment, but needed to pick up a few last items from my old place. A bookshelf and a recliner and a handful of other odd and ends. I mentioned this offhandedly to my new internet friend and he insists that he come help me. I very nearly didn't agree to it, but up until that point he had been such a gentleman and hadn't given me any reason to think he was going to turn out to be a psychopath. I also really did need some help and he was offering to do all the heavy lifting for me. I still wasn't sure if it was a good idea, but after some back and forth, I finally agreed to let him help me. So I pick him up. As it turns out, he doesn't drive. I also discover that he's living with a friend whose kids he babysits in exchange for room and board. He was homeless just a few months back and had been living on the streets for quite some time before that. He is on disability. He's also missing a lot of his teeth. I'm trying really hard not to be too judgmental. He still seems very sweet in person. He's also rather effeminate and somewhat whiny, which is annoying. So we make some small talk and things start out fine, except he's making a lot of comments like, "Oh, you're even prettier in person than I imagined you." Or, "Oh, I always wanted a girlfriend that was as tall like you." We head out to my old place. As promised, he helps me take apart some furniture and loads it up in my Subaru. We head back to my place and he helps me unload the car, all the while continuing to shower me in compliments that make me feel uncomfortable and calling me, you guessed it, milady. After everything is moved, he insists on making me dinner. I probably would have refused if he hadn't brought up all of the fixings with him, and also I'm hungry, so I let him whip me up some of the worst chicken I've ever tasted in my life. Then things start to get weird. My roommate comes home with a movie and he wants to watch it with us. I feel like a jerk rushing him out of the door after he helped me move and cook dinner, so I let him stay. Then he wants to give me a back rub, which I decline, and give him a shoulder rub instead because he's starting to creep me out and I want to take control of the situation immediately. After the movie, I take him home immediately, and not more than an hour later, he starts sending me all these whiny texts. He starts out by saying that he's really upset that we didn't get to hang out at all. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? We literally just spent the whole day together. Which is when he claimed that I didn't give him any attention. I still didn't know what he was talking about, and I told him so. We hung out all day. What else did you want? He starts talking about how he's crazy about me and I can't possibly understand what it's like to have met your soulmate and have them not be interested in you. He can't understand why I don't want to be with him. I told him I thought we were friends. I thought he understood that I'm not looking for a relationship. So then he asks if we couldn't be friends with benefits. He said he knew that I was into casual sex and couldn't understand why I didn't want to at least have sex with him. He went on to call me shallow because he was not traditionally attractive. So I basically told him to a certain extent he was right. I typically only have casual sex with people I find drop dead gorgeous. To me, that is the point of casual sex. To fuck some beautiful people. However, when I'm interested in dating someone, I'm less concerned with looks. I want someone with a great personality who's ambitious, or at the very least, has their shit together. You have no job, no car, no house, no career goals, no ambition, nothing. I have no reason to fuck or date you. Well, that pretty much shut him up. He said he didn't want to be my friend, and I said, that's fine by me. Of course, he'd accidentally left some shit at my house and needed to get it back from me. I said, I'll put it on the porch. It was gone the next day, and thankfully I never heard from him again. There was a time I spent working at a comic book shop. I got so many awkward nice guy encounters. One guy that really stands out would come to the store to buy action figures every Sunday. He wouldn't speak to me beyond the typical customer checking out at the register back and forth, but I was polite and friendly because it was my job. So the Sunday before Valentine's Day, he actually talked to me and asked me if I had any plans for the big day. I wasn't seeing anyone, so I told him that I was just going to be at home by myself that night. He said very pointedly, I don't have any plans for Valentine's Day either. I gave him a big hooray for people alone on Valentine's Day, and he left, and I thought nothing more of it. So Valentine's Day shows up, and a delivery guy brings a huge glass vase with like 24 red roses, a heart-shaped box of chocolates, and a poem ripped straight from the internet with my name copied and pasted into the blanks and covered with stickers of Vash the Stampede. That was easily $100 for the whole thing. It was sent by a guy named Aaron, and I had no clue who that was. No idea. I didn't know anyone named Aaron at all. The whole thing weirded me out, and I didn't even like flowers or chocolates, so I gave the chocolates to my co-workers and the flowers to my mom and put it in the back of my mind. The following Sunday comes around, and in comes the action figure guy. He asks me how my Valentine's Day went, and I start telling him about how some guy sent all these flowers that I didn't like and all this chocolate that I didn't eat and this super cheesy love poem. And his face just drops and drops and drops, and then it hits me. This guy is Aaron. You can hear his heart break as he asks me, so you didn't like it? I try to explain it was weird and awkward and I didn't even know his name. I don't even bring up the fact that I was 17 and he was about 35, reeked of cigarettes and had really bad sweat stains on his holy white t-shirt. He just turned and walked away, despondent. I thought the whole thing was over and done with, but I was wrong. When I was getting ready to leave that night, when the shop closed, my coworker pointed out that Aaron was still sitting in his car in the parking lot and had been there all day, ever since he left like 5 or 6 hours previously. He was just staring at the door of the shop. I have no doubt in my mind he was waiting for me to leave, but I didn't want to take any chances with what he might have wanted. My manager walked me to my car that night, and every day for the next week and a half just to be safe, but Aaron never showed back up again.